Good afternoon and welcome. This is the Candidates Forum for Stockton City Council District 4. The League of Women Voters of San Joaquin County, the NAACP Stockton Branch, and Delta College's Multimedia, Political Science, and History programs are sponsoring the forum. My name is Gillian Murphy and I'm privileged to be this afternoon's moderator. I would now like the candidates to introduce themselves, just their names.
I'm Michael Blauer.
I'm Susan Lenz.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that you were heard.
Susan Lenz.
Great, thank you very much. We'll now start with an opening statement. Each of you will have 1 minute, and we'll start with Councilman Blauer.
Again, I'm Michael Blauer, and I just want to thank all of you for being here today. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the NAACP, as well as Delta College for putting on this event. I think it's very important to the process that people have a chance to hear from the candidates and hear what we think about and who we are. I'm very proud that I did get appointed to the Stockton City Council in February. I've had a chance to now serve for most of the year, and it has been a very, very interesting experience, to say the least. I felt very blessed to get that opportunity. I do think that's given me a lot of experience so far with the council. I am a lifelong Stocktonian. I feel very, very passionately about my city. I feel very strongly about being able to do whatever I can to make the city of Stockton a better place.
And I'm Susan Lenz. I'm also a lifelong resident of Stockton. I graduated from Stagg High School, Humphreys College. I also have my AA degree from Delta College. I am a CPA. I've been a CPA for 38 years. I also served on the Lincoln School Board for 10 years. So again, I also want to thank you for having us here today. And I'm also proud that Michael and I have a very respectful race going on. We respect each other very much. And thank you for coming.
Thank you so much. I would now like to introduce our panelists. We have two panelists for this afternoon. We have representing the League of Women Voters, Daphne Shaw, and representing NAACP, Reverend Edmund Green. Thank you both for being here. We're going to start the first question. Daphne Shaw will ask the first question, and Ms. Lenz, you will be the first to respond.
There are two Stockton City Charter revision proposals on the November ballot. Measure N, which among other changes provides for the election of city council members exclusively by district, and Measure O, which revises the process for adjusting compensation for mayor and council members, as well as makes other revisions to the city charter. Which of these provisions do you support or oppose, and why?
Okay, well, I would strongly support Measure N, which that would mean that our district, we're in different districts in our city, and as it stands now, during the primary, we are voted on just specifically by our district. The top two people then move on to the general election in November, and that is citywide voting, which I believe that, I think that's a good proposition that this measure should pass, because then we would be voted on by our district, who we will be representing on the city council. It's also very expensive to run citywide, and I'm sure I echo many council members when they say the money that we have to raise, we sure would rather have that going to city charities instead of spending it to run for a citywide election. So I vote for that. I would vote for Measure N. The other measure I am against. I don't believe we need a strong mayor. That's not how our cities ran. We're ran with a city manager in charge, and I think that's working. I think it's worked for several years, so I would not be in favor of that measure.
When we voted to put these measures on the ballot, I felt very strongly that it was important to separate them, because there was one proposal to just lump everything together. And I think the first portion that we talked about is so important that we are able to get that one. Of all the measures that we put out there, I think that's one of the more important ones. Measure N is very important because the way we currently operate, as Susan described, is really a difficult process. And more importantly, it's probably against state law. It's something that I believe puts us in jeopardy of a potential lawsuit. And so I think it's very critical that measure passed, because we do need to get into compliance with state law. And just as Susan was saying, I mean, to go from, it's like two totally different races. Your race is in one district, and then you go citywide, and it's just a whole different deal, and it is, like you said, quite expensive, and it would be nice to not have that expense and to be able to have the campaigns be more manageable. As far as, looks like I'm almost out of time, as far as the other one, I'm also opposed to Measure Up.
Thank you. Reverend Green will now ask the next question, and first to Councilman Flower.
What do you perceive as the three most important concerns facing the city of Stockton?
So I think the number one concern that I hear as I'm out on the campaign trail, as I've had my community office hours and the calls that I get, people are still very, very concerned with crime in the city. So public safety issues, crime is the number one thing I hear about. The number two issue that I would hear about would be homelessness. So many people are concerned with the growing problem of homelessness. I found it very illuminating that in April we had a study session. At that study session, we discussed a review of the strategic plan that had been done 2 years prior. And it was very interesting that 2 years prior, homelessness was not a priority that the city had. So I was very proud that we were able to add that as a priority. So that is now on the radar. That is definitely something that just driving around town you can continually see. And I'd say the third big issue is economic development. We need to make sure that we can bring businesses here, we need to bring jobs here, we have to have opportunity.
Well, I'm going to echo what Michael said, because I also believe our three biggest areas are, first of all, our crime rate, which affects so many things in the city of Stockton. It would bring maybe more economic development if we didn't have such a high crime rate. I know when the voters passed Measure A, promising the voters that are paying this extra sales tax, more officers. We're supposed to have 485 total officers by June 30th, 2017, and we're lagging behind. We're getting closer, and they've made progress, but there's still a lot of those new officers are also still in training. Homelessness, I totally agree, it's a big problem. Now it's not only affecting residents in the city, it's also affecting our small businesses. I talk to people in our district that some of them go to work, open their small business, and there's homeless people sleeping in their front door. That's not okay for our residents and our businesses. So I know there's a county-wide task force that's working on homelessness with the city. I really strongly believe that the city needs to work with the county and work on this homeless problem. And the third thing, economic development. I think if we can get our crime rate under control, get some economic development, we will get economic development, get our homelessness, because we have such a bad reputation in Stockton on the national level, the state level, and it's very sad.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw will ask the next question, and Ms. Lenz will be first to respond.
Stockton is revisiting its general plan, which was adopted before the recession and Stockton's bankruptcy. In light of the changes in Stockton since 2008, what changes in the general plan do you see as important at this time?
Well, I do think some of the changes are the infill in our city. I know there was more sprawl in that general plan, but I also feel very strongly about revitalizing downtown Stockton, which I think the 10 space is a wonderful start to that project. It would be great. There's other areas in our city, such as downtown, South Stockton, that need some revitalizing, and it would be great to have those areas have some infill and in our general plan. I also think we need affordable housing, obviously, in our city, and that I think should be also addressed in the general plan.
Well, I think it's exciting that we are revising our general plan. It was very unfortunate that when the last general plan came out, it was almost immediately obsolete. The market completely disintegrated, it blew up, and it totally made all the assumptions and things that were put forth in that plan irrelevant and didn't make much sense. So I think it's great that we're starting this process over again. We've had several meetings in the community, and it's been very great seeing the turnout that we've had at those community meetings. The input that people have had has been excellent. Just last week, I was at the California League of Cities had at their conference, and one of the sessions that I attended was on development, and it's such an important, vital part of planning for your community. I see what's going on in downtown Stockton is very exciting. Their plan that Susan mentioned, the 10 Space is putting on, very exciting. It is very important, I think, that we do infill. I mean, it makes a lot of sense if you've already got city services and things there that have already been developed to build in those areas. I, as a real estate broker, am excited to have a different sort of product. I look forward to being able to sell properties downtown. I think that one thing that I've seen also that at some of the public meetings was discussed is that they're more than just downtown Stockton. We do need to do more things in South Stockton to bring that community more in line.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Reverend Green, and we'll go first to Councilman Bell.
Discuss your interest in serving on the city council. What is your experience working with civic, communities, or governmental organizations?
Sure, so the reason why I decided to go down this path, I've had a long background of public service. I grew up with a good example. My mother, Melody Flower, served on the Lincoln Unified School District Board for 18 years. I've seen my father as a president of the Rotary Club. As a kid, I would tag along with my mom and do the Children's Home Auxiliary and help out with different events. So that's something that's always been near and dear to me, is giving back to the community. To me, it's just part of my DNA. When I graduated from college, I got involved in the Junior Chamber of Commerce. I was president of that. I've been president of the Rotary Club of Stockton. I've been president of many different leadership positions. As far as dealing with the city, I served on the community development on that committee. So I've been involved quite a bit. When I first heard, oh gosh, it's been almost 2 years ago. By the time this whole thing is done, I've been running for almost 2 years. And when I first heard that Councilmember Zapian was not going to be seeking re-election, that's when I really started thinking that it was time to take the next step and get more involved and do everything I can to make my city a better place.
As I stated prior, that I am a CPA, and I also have served on the Lincoln School Board from 2004 through 2014. And I served during very difficult budget times in our state and our school district. So I've dealt with difficult budgets. I know how government budgets work. I've also, and I want to bring my expertise. You know, as we all know, we're emerging from bankruptcy, and we have a very strict plan to follow. And so I would like to bring my financial background to the city council to help as we are emerging from bankruptcy. I think it's very important. There's no one on the council now nor running that has any financial background, not only as being a CPA, but also in government budgets. I also served on the Parks and Rec through the city of Stockton, and I've also served over the last 30-some years in local nonprofit groups, many low nonprofit groups. So I love Stockton, and I would like to see us continue to move forward, and I feel it's very important that there's someone financial on the city council.
Thank you. Ms. Shaw, you have the next question, and if you would address it first to Ms. Lenz.
You both have mentioned your concern about homelessness being an issue in Stockton. Specifically, what steps can or should the city take to both help people and families who are homeless and to minimize public health and safety issues surrounding homelessness?
Well, I think it's very important, like I stated before, that we do work with the county's task force that they now are working on, looking for solutions. I also believe, you know, we have some excellent organizations in Stockton right now. St. Mary's Dining Hall, which serves over 400,000 meals a year. We have the Stockton Shelter for the Homeless. We have the Gospel Rescue Mission. I mean, these are all excellent organizations that possibly could be expanded with the city's help to help with our homeless problem. I also think we should visit cities that have worked with their homeless problem and have had success with that. Sometimes I feel in Stockton that we start from scratch and try to figure it out on our own when there are other cities that have mastered these problems. So I feel that would be very important for us to look around at other cities. Did someone else have a worse problem? I read once about a Salt Lake City that really dedicated money and time to their homeless problem and had great success. So those are some of the issues that I feel would be important working with our homeless population.
So as I mentioned before, it was very interesting to me that 2 years ago, apparently 2.5 years ago, that homelessness wasn't really on the city council's radar, and I'm glad that it is now. I've seen myself, I'm a runner, and I live over by UOP, and I run along the levee, and running along that 2 years ago, you didn't really see anybody out there, and as these last couple of years have gone by, I've seen more and more tents pop up, and so we're seeing it all over the city. The problem with homelessness is there's no single bullet. There's not a silver bullet answer. There's so many different contributing factors to why people are homeless. I mean, you have mental health issues, you have substance abuse issues, socioeconomic issues, all these different factors that combine, which makes it very difficult to say, okay, here's the solution. So you really need to have a multi-pronged approach, and I think it's very important that it's a coordinated effort. Now, many of those issues, things like substance abuse, things like mental health, those are not really things that the city has a lot of control over. And that's where I think it's so vitally important that we work well with the county. And I am very pleased that the county does have the task force that they formed. And I'm very excited to hear what they have to say on November 17th when they release their findings. I know that the city is going to have its role to play in that. I think it's very important that we all get a coordinated effort and work together to solve this problem.
Thank you. And Councilman Lauer, you will respond next to the question from Reverend Green.
In a news article in the Stockton Record newspaper not long ago, Stockton is cited as the #1 city in California for violent crimes per capita. Do you have any special ideas or recommendations about addressing the crimes and working with African Americans and other minority groups in the community to develop a community plan?
So that issue, as far as I mentioned earlier, crime is one of the #1 issues, if not the #1 issue that I hear about, and I think that is a concern to people. I think we have a good plan in place. The Marshall Plan is a good plan. The key to that, and where I think we need to move forward, is we need the officers. We need the manpower to be able to get the job done. Measure A was passed with that intent that we would have money to hire more officers. Now, obviously, we've had problems with retention. We're hiring as fast as we can, and we're doing a good job hiring. It was retaining the officers that's been difficult. Now, I feel that we on the council have done a good job this year. One of the issues in talking with lots of officers that I would hear about is they really didn't like their health plan. We've come up with some additional health plans for them that has helped. We also came to an agreement to give them an 11% raise. That has helped quite a bit. So I think those things are going to help us with the amount of people. Now, as far as getting along with the community, I think community policing is very important. It makes sense. I'd like to see more diversity in the police force. I think that we have, as far as gaining more trust, I'm glad that we were able to implement put the cameras on the officers. And we are looking into new technology where they're better cameras that when they push the button, it will have 30 seconds worth of footage from before when they push the button. I think that's important. I'm very pleased and proud that I have the support of Sheriff Steve Moore as well as the Stockton police officers. Oh, very good.
It's your time. Sorry. Thank you.
Yes, and one other thing that, I agree with everything Michael said, but the other thing that I like about Measure M, the library tax, is not just library, it's also recreation. And one of the things they hope to bring is like some after-school programs to our recreation centers. And I think that would be great to get some programs going, start the kids younger. And when I was with the Lincoln School Board, we ended up putting security security officers in every one of our schools, a number of them at the high school, but also all of our elementary schools. And the one really positive thing about that is they became friends of the students at a very young age. They were in uniforms. They weren't all Stockton. We had one Stockton PD person at the high school, but they were in uniforms. And the young people started to treat these people as friends, and the officers became very familiar with them, knew who the kids were. I feel like by the time kids become older and later teens, a lot of times they look at officers as a negative. And I really like that in our schools, and I know it made a difference to our students because they would come to the open houses of officers. They would be on the playground with the kids. They would throw a basketball with the kids. And I felt I would love to see that in all of our schools, and possibly it would help some of our younger children have a positive attitude, and very much so the African American kids. It's a positive. Police officers are a positive.
Thank you both. So now it's time for your closing statements. Each of you will have 1.5 minutes for your closing statement, and we start with you, Ms. Lenz.
Well, I'd like to thank you again for having us today. I'd also like to thank everyone that's here. You know, I guess we're at the point now we're counting the days down till the election's over. I truly believe I could bring something to the council that's not there now. I've stated before what I am, and I'm an accountant. I've served 10 years on the Lincoln School Board, so I feel I would like to bring my skills of my day job to the city council. I love Stockton. I want it to be better. I want the next generation to be here, to have a job, to want to come back to Stockton and know there's opportunity, there's less crime, there's a thriving community. You know, the other day one of our employees went to Turlock to her class reunion, and she said the downtown area, she grew up there, but she lives in Stockton now, is thriving. And it was on a Saturday night, and they had all these streets closed and had a band, and she said, her friend said this happens every Saturday night now in Turlock. They've completely turned their community around. It was a fun event. She said just everybody dancing in the street with a band. And so it would be great if we could get certain areas in Stockton in a positive. That was a very positive. She said it was a great event. So when I hear ideas like that, I'd love to bring those things to Stockton. So thank you again to everyone who attended.
So as I mentioned, I started this journey 22 months ago, I believe. And I started, and the reason why, when I was first considering this, what really motivated me to do this is I am a lifelong Stockton. I've been here my whole life. I went off to school, and when I graduated, there was no doubt in my mind where I was coming back. And that's very important to me, that this is my city, this is my home. I have two small daughters. I have an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. I want those girls to go off, and they go off to college. I want them to want to come back to Stockton. That's what motivates me. I want to make my city a better place. I've been very blessed to have a broad base of support. I'm very pleased that I have the support of the Central Labor Council. I have multiple endorsements. I was endorsed by the Stockton Record, which I really appreciated that. I'm very serious about this. This isn't something that I came to lightly. This is something that is very, very near and dear to me. I think that Stockton is a wonderful city, but I think we have so much potential. I think that working together, we can make this the best city that it can be, and the city that it deserves to be. So I thank you again all for being here. I thank you for this opportunity to speak, and I would appreciate your support on November 8th.
Thank you both. On behalf of all of the sponsors, first I would like to thank our panelists, Ms. Daphne Shaw and Reverend Edmund Green. Thank you very much. And also, we definitely want to thank our candidates, Councilmember Blauer and Ms. Lenz, for being here tonight. I also want to thank all of you for being here, because you also make this possible. And one more group I want to thank before we applaud everybody, and that is our students that you can see and you can't see because they are making this possible, along with their faculty. Please help me thank all of the above. And stick with me for another couple of minutes. I have another couple of things to say. Another group of people I would like you to thank are the timekeepers. Trust me, this is not an easy job to do, so please thank the timekeepers. deadline to register to vote is October 24th. It's easy to register to vote. You can do it online at sos.ca.gov. All you need to have is either your Social Security, the last 4 numbers, a California ID, or your California driver's license. Along with that, we have made paper applications available at Danner Hall here today at Delta College. Most of all, know that if you've moved, you've changed your name, or you want to change your party affiliation, you have to be registered. So we thank you again for being here, and remember, you're going to vote. When are you going to vote?
November 8th.
November 8th. Thank you very much. Go ahead. And excuse me, finally, I've got one other announcement to make. We were due to have another City of Stockton Candidates Forum, but Mr. Fant had to be out of town unexpectedly. So we will be starting at 4:55 with the Mayor's Forum. Thank you so much.